joining us for episode 34 of Super Geeks. This is a special episode because we have a special guest, and there's only two hosts because everybody else is off fighting supervillains or getting their legs unzombified.
Getting their legs waxed. Let's get getting their legs waxed.
Yeah, he's not going to live that one down. My name is George. I'm your main host. Joining me today is Will. How you doing, Will?
Yeah, what's up, George?
And special guest, Oren. How do you pronounce your last name again?
Ashkenazi. And, I mean, if you guys are off fighting supervillains, I feel like I might be a little outclassed here. I mean, I barely have
they're
henchmen's union, so, you know.
They are not fighting supervillains, I can assure you of that.
They are supervillains then. Okay, I get it.
B-rated or C-rated, stuff from like the 1950s, the cheesy, afternoon movie things, that's what they're fighting, So don't worry about it. You'll fit right in.
Well, my idea of a supervillain is someone from the IRS, so, I don't like to do taxes, so.
Nobody likes to do taxes. True
and
fact.
Donald Trump is like Lex Luthor. I won't get into politics. I'm just saying.
Fair enough.
What's funny is every time I see anything to do with Trump, I'm not getting political. It's just as a character. He is so caricature of reminding me of all the comics and the Justice League Unlimited whenever or even Smallville when Lex Luthor was running for president, and it's like President Luthor, and it's like people would be like, that's such a fairy tale because Lex Luthor, everybody knows he's a villain, he would never get elected, and then you watch what's going on right now, and it's like, wow, art imitates life, life imitates art. It's amazing.
Yeah, the difference
I think
is
they're
Lex
both
Luthor can form a coherent sentence. But speaking of Lex Luthor, I hear you guys are into Supergirl on this show. Is that a fact?
That is absolutely a fact, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come on the show, because you have a lot of interesting perspectives that I've read online about the show. Because you pretty much just watched the whole season on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I mean,
season.
It was my unwinding when it first went on Netflix. I was like, oh man, Supergirl, I'm gonna give that a try, and I yelled about it a lot because I had.
Can I ask you a question before we begin?
Yeah,
Why did you have a chance to watch it on CBS, or you just didn't get into it in that first season when it was being on
cable? I basically watch
okay, so
everything online. So I tend to get shows on a bit of a delayed schedule, unless of course they're Netflix shows or what have you.
Fair enough, but that's the beauty of streaming networks, is that you can watch it later and catch up really fast.
Yeah, and I tend to prefer watching like one episode a night to having to wait like a week, because by the time the next week comes, sometimes I've forgotten what happens or whatever. So I find the experience more complete to watch them one at a time, or maybe two if I have a lot of time.
You would actually average three.
Are you a millennial, perhaps? Because I'm an old man. I was in the '80s at our TV one episode a week, and we had to sit there, and then we had to wait for the next week to roll around.
Sorry.
I like no, that's what I'm saying. I love Netflix, and again, this is one we've had on the show: is what's the best way to receive the material today? The content. Is it the way they do it on Netflix, like with Luke Cage or the Daredevil, where they just put 13 episodes out and you can just binge watch them, or when you get the season, the last year's season for Supergirl, get them all 22, 23 episodes and you just watch them. For me, okay, if you're patient, you can wait, which, it's fine. Or if you do get cable, you do get satellite, I don't know. I mean, for me, all I want is just one play to pay it. If it's HBO, whatever, just one. I don't want these multiple things like CBS or HBO or Netflix. I just want one. Just give me one thing, I'll pay it, and then I can get my content anyway. That put it into that. But we're not going to get that yet. But it's interesting that you're not on the grid, right? You're just completely off the cable grid.
Well, I think you've actually hit on a kind of an interesting topic there, which is the fragmentation of content. And this is, I think, outside the question of if the Netflix model or the broadcast TV model is better. Regardless of what you think about that, we're having a situation now where there are more and more streaming services starting, and they aren't really competing with each other. What they're doing is they're dividing up content. And it's to the point where, Hulu and Netflix aren't really in competition because you are going to need both if you want to get the shows that you want. It's sort of like suddenly two companies are selling you half of a car, right? Neither of them, they're not really competing with each other.
It's like insurance companies too, because the thing is, like, Doctor Who is now on Amazon Prime, but they also have the BBC streaming thing coming out. And like they used to have Doctor Who on Netflix, but it's all about them competing with each other to get the contracts, because it's like Doctor Who could suddenly be back on Netflix in 2 weeks if the contract's up and they get outbid by Netflix. That's how it works. So right now, you can watch Doctor Who Season 9 on Amazon Prime, which I actually love Amazon Prime, and even though I have to pay a little more for having both. But they do offer Doctor Who, and for all, everybody could get used to paying for Amazon Prime just because they want to watch Doctor Who, and then all of a sudden, in 3 weeks, it could be back over at Netflix because they outbid Amazon for when it came time to renew the contract with the BBC.
Yeah, well, I mean, the different streaming services are in competition for the content providers, but they aren't really competing for us, right?
That's true.
Like,
that's
they
true.
know that if we like these shows, especially if we're devoted fans, like a lot of us are, that we're gonna get all of them because we want to have all the content. Although, frankly, I think CBS is making a terrible mistake putting Star Trek on their new streaming service exclusively.
Well, that remains to be seen.
I have said this repeatedly, that people have just had Star Trek free for years, and they pay to see the movies, but the TV stuff has always been free on TV. I don't see people spending $5, $10, whatever CBS one is or whatever that is, to just get Star Trek.
Unless they start building more
right, but they
Star
don't
Trek
have
later.
anything right now. This is what Netflix didn't just come into the business and say, well, we got all this content. They were 10, 12 years ago almost bought up by Blockbuster because they were in such dire straits.
Well, they did start offering the new Star Trek show for the UK Netflix. So it goes to show you, if they're starting to bend over for them, I mean, it's only a matter of time before they cave into us.
Like I say, I am not going to pay CBS for that single tip. I'm just not going to do it. So yeah. I will either not see Star Trek, so I won't be able to click on it, or they'll find a way that you can, or maybe you sign up for once it's all out. I think they start in January and it goes to May. Once it's all out, maybe I'll sign up for a month, get a free month's content, watch them all, binge watch them, and then cancel my service. I'm not paying CBS that money.
Well, actually, they pushed it up. It's starting in May now. Remember?
Sure, but so here's what I'm pretty sure happened. I'm pretty sure some CBS guys were looking at the list of the most pirated shows, and they were like, right now, Game of Thrones is the most pirated show. I'm pretty sure we can beat that. Because if they were trying to make the perfect situation to engineer their show being super pirated, it's to make it so that it's on a new service that nobody wants, except only in the US and Canada, right? Everywhere else gets it on Netflix. But we have
what the heck is that?
It's
that
because
just
they hate us.
pisses me off.
It's because they I don't think they understand that we will not pay. That people are not going to pay for that.
I'm not going to pay for it.
They're going to feel cheated, and I mean, we can't say for sure, right? None of us can see the future, but I am willing to predict at this point that Star Trek will either fail because of this maneuver, or they will quickly reverse course and put it on other streaming services.
That's what I think is going to happen. They're going to course correct. That's my prediction.
I don't want Star Trek to fail because of this terrible mistake.
They've already kind of done that, because first they announced they were going on and on about the whole CBS All Access is the way to get it. Then they got all the backlash, and then all of a sudden we're getting this news that, well, okay, for the UK they're going to let them have it on Netflix. That already shows you that they're already bending over a little bit, and they've had some people having some meetings with them in closed rooms. So it's only they're going to wait and see.
What is the number one network in this country for primetime content? It's CBS. They got all the number one shows. Yeah, they do, because they got that CSI, that NCSI, whatever it is. Big Bang Theory, right? Yeah, no, they got all of them, right? But that's for the older generation, right? That's for the 30s and 40s and 50s. That's not the demographics they're trying to put, okay, we've got this show, we're going to make it new, we're going to have a new premise. We've already talked about on the show what they're going to do. But I think they're just misreading the newer generation, the 20-year-olds. These kids that don't want to be paying for this stuff just to get one episode or one season or one show, they're not going to do it. They just don't understand these demographics. These kids are not going to do that. I don't think. I really don't.
I want
because they're not into a Star Trek as much as the older generation is.
I completely agree that there's a lot of concerns. All I'm going to suggest is we wait and see what happens. I want to try to get back to the topic, because Oren has a limited amount of time. About
Oh, right, yeah, Supergirl.
Yeah, let's get back on Supergirl. Will, because you and I can rant on about that after he leaves.
Yes, yes.
Because I know I'm passionate about that too. Yeah,
on that.
Yeah, we could do a whole show about that for 2 hours. We have actually, I think. But anyways,
yes.
So Oren, you saw recently, and what's got us talking about that is that you took your time. You chose to take your time when you could have binge watched, and you went and watched and analyzed each episode or 2 or 3 episode blocks of Supergirl. I remember reading your reactions. I know one thing that was consistent through the whole season. I want to break it down to the journey that the show has gone through from the beginning to the end of the season. So, I know that you don't like Cat Grant.
I really don't.
I love her.
Dear Lord.
I love her. I know a lot of people.
Wow.
But a lot of people love her. But I know that your opinion of her is you come from a different perspective, because you do come from, and this is not an insult, but you do have a background of coming from a family that has a lot of feminist ideals. And is that possibly playing into your view of her? Or how?
Well, I would never consider being called a feminist an insult. I am a proud feminist.
Okay, good. I'm just saying it respectfully.
And a proud social justice warrior, if you want to throw that one at me too.
Sure, you're a social. There you go. That's your superhero name. Social justice warrior.
Pretty sure other people have already taken that one.
I don't know. I've never seen it in the comics.
Okay, so my issue with Cat Grant. All right, so Cat Grant. On the one hand, I am all about the idea of a hard-ass female boss, right? Those are very rare in fiction. Like, that's almost always the guy, and it's like he's a hard-ass, and we respect for being a hard-ass, right?
Right.
And I get that when you're talking about hard-ass women, it's hard to separate, like, any actual flaws their character has versus any sexist reactions that they create, right? You have that same problem when you're discussing Captain Janeway, because it's like...
that's a good point, yep.
Janeway has actual character flaws that are a problem for her character, but also there are lots of people who just hate her because they can't deal with the fact that there's a woman in the captain's chair. Right?
The B word gets associated. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so I get that is a problem with Cat Grant, and I try to modulate my critiques through that lens. But when it comes down to it, the issue that I have with Grant is that I think that she is an abuser. I think that she is literally in an abusive relationship with Kara, not an abusive romantic relationship, obviously.
Mentally abusive.
Yeah, she's mentally abusive to Kara, and, like, I don't understand what the benefit is supposed to be. Like, because she doesn't even remember Kara's name, right? Like,
but you saw the last episode, right?
Right. That's supposed to be a big thing, is her remembering Kara's name. And it's like, what? That's not a big thing. That's like common decency. Compare that to the 1 or 2 episodes we saw of Lucy being in charge of DOE. DEO, right?
Yeah.
DEO. And Lucy is actually a hard-ass boss and is not an abuser, which shows they do know how to write women as hard-ass bosses. But for some reason, with Cat Grant, they chose not to. And I understand that character has a history in the comics. And I don't have that background. Like,
she wasn't like this really in the comics. She was competitive against Lois Lane, and she was, but and all that. But the way they structure her is not very similar. She is unique in terms of how they're portraying her.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at a couple of things that Grant does. Okay. So she constantly belittles Kara, right? Even though Kara, as far as we can tell, is doing a great job, Grant is constantly giving her shit. Can I swear on this show?
Yeah, you can swear.
Okay, I'm trying not to make a habit of it.
No. On Subspace Radio, one of our syndicators, they put out a warning, and they told me, don't worry about the swearing, just go for it.
Okay, all right. So she's constantly belittling Kara, like, at every opportunity that she gets. And to be fair, she does this with all of her employees. So, like, just a terrible boss all around, right? And, she says things like, for one thing, she just loves to say bad things about millennials. And admittedly, I take that kind of personally. Being 29 years old and all. But even if I wasn't, like, the way that she treats Kara, I think is just abhorrent. And also the way that she treats Supergirl, frankly. Like, there's one episode where Supergirl has been hit by red krypton and makes her, like, super
the
mad.
Red Kryptonite? Yeah.
Yeah, red kryptonite, excuse me.
Well, she did throw her off the building,
Right, but like this is after we've had at least one Supergirl impersonator, right? Who like ran around and did a bunch of bad stuff trying to make people think Supergirl had turned evil. And so now we have, again, Supergirl apparently going evil, and Cat Grant decides that she's going to do this big, like, panic-inducing broadcast to tell everyone that Supergirl has gone evil based off of very little evidence, and is not even interested. She doesn't, like, say that this has happened before, right? Or that, like, we don't know what's going on. She's like,
in all fairness, though, she was thrown off a roof.
Yeah, but I don't care, because Cat Grant's whole thing is that your problems don't matter. You have to take responsibility for yourself. Any sign that you're struggling is personal weakness, right? Like, that's Cat Grant's entire modus operandi. Even when no one around her is showing signs that they're having problems, she's constantly accusing them of that and being like, you need to sort yourself out. Your problems aren't my problems. I don't got to deal with your feelings, right? So why should I suddenly care about her feelings for being thrown off a building?
Well, let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah?
This
okay.
is her exact personality is no different than J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man franchise. So why is it because she's a woman that you have a problem with it?
Okay, well, I'd like to think that it's not because she's a woman. Again, my experience with comics is
okay.
limited.
Well, I mean, sorry.
But, okay, so I'll address the J. Jonah Jameson first, and then the woman thing. Okay, so first of all, my experience with J. Jonah Jameson is specifically in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films.
Which, yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah.
I have read very, very few actual Spider-Man comics.
Yeah, no,
so
I'm actually thinking of those movies in my head, so go ahead.
Right. So judging by the parts of those movies that I remember, and granted it's a while, right? We've had 2 Spider-Man reboots since then.
Right.
So it's been a while since I've seen them, but the way that I remember JJJ, the J as it were, he was not a nice guy. Right? Certainly he was a bit of a jerk, and he had a vendetta against Spider-Man for some reason that I never entirely understood. But I didn't see him constantly belittling and, like, you know, demeaning his employees. Like, he's not nice to Peter, certainly. He's not a nice boss, but he isn't, like, I don't think he's a monster. I don't think he's an abuser the way Grant is. I do think he's an asshole. But there's also the fact that part of Spider-Man's whole thing is that he's very poor, right? Like, that's Spider-Man's thing, is that he's desperate for money, so that's why he has to take pictures of himself. Oh, that's true, and he's not on a payroll.
He was doing it on a commission type basis. Like, you want to buy these photos off me, yeah.
And, like, that's a weird conceit anyway. There are, like, any number of ways Spider-Man could make money without being ethically compromised that don't involve dealing with J. Jonah Jameson. But that is at least the conceit of the show, is that Spider-Man needs the money, which is why he does this.
You got a good point there. Yep.
Whereas Supergirl is very clearly not in that situation. Supergirl has plenty of resources. She could just work for the DEO full time if she wanted to.
Yep.
I mean, heck, her parents are pretty well off.
Well, wait. At the start of the show, she wasn't working with the DEO. She wasn't out as Supergirl. She was working as Kara.
As time went on, why did he put up with her?
Right, but okay, but at the beginning, she rose through the ranks, or she became her secretary, or her. That's what the premise was. I saw her simply as a female Jameson. That's what I saw her as. I had no problem with it. I'm like, okay, she's just that person in a female role. That's it. I didn't really have a problem with it. But again, I understand when she became Supergirl. But would she get paid for working with the DEO? I mean, does Superman get paid?
Well, I don't know about Superman. I mean, Superman's got a Fortress of Solitude. He can probably, he can probably set up a Patreon or something. But, I don't know if the DEO pays her, but if they don't, they absolutely should, right? I mean, they talk about having her work full-time for them.
They've actually addressed this on the new season, so... Go ahead, though.
So if they don't pay her, they're just idiots. I assume that they pay her. Because, do you really... I mean, this is another thing, frankly. This is a problem with a lot of superheroes, particularly in DC, now that Marvel is largely doing away with the idea of secret identities in their cinematic stuff. But, someone should draw up a chart of like how many people died because Supergirl had to work a shitty 9-to-5 job instead of being Supergirl full time.
Well,
I would like to see
fair,
that.
though, the job she chose did allow for her to take off and go rescue people, and nobody, like, Cat Grant wasn't paying attention to where she was. You know what I mean? There was some flexibility. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, okay, so the one advantage to working for Cat Grant is that Cat Grant is so oblivious that she doesn't always notice that her personal assistant's not around.
It's a big building.
So, like, that's the one advantage. But we've already established that Kara doesn't need the money. Like, there are other things she could do, and, like, frankly, she could get a better job. Like, that's another thing. Like, so Clark Kent sometimes has an antagonistic relationship with his boss at the Daily Planet, right? Perry White, I think is his boss's name. So, but like Clark Kent is a journalist, and that is clearly his passion. So to a certain extent, I can believe that he would put up with some crap from his boss in order to do what he wants, what he's like really passionate about.
Very interesting that you said that, because it ties into a lot of what's going on in the new season. I won't go there now, I'm just saying.
Right, I haven't seen season 2 yet. But in season 1, like, Kara is a personal assistant. I don't think she has a passion for personal assistanting.
No.
Like, I never saw any indication that that was what she wanted to do. I think she talks about wanting to be in journalism, which she's not.
Right.
Yeah,
but the whole premise, I think, when you see Cat Grant and Kara, their dynamic is she's trying to push Kara into something. She sees a woman that's just waffling. She's not picking something. She's just being tentative. She's being weak and meek, and she's trying to force her to choose something. She's not doing that, and that's why she's being deliberately, pushing her, needling her, getting her under her skin to force her to do something.
Well, keep in mind also that Oren hasn't seen season 2. And Oren, I know that you don't.
That's what I got in the first season. I got out of the first season. Because look what she did. I mean, she's waffling. She's going backwards and forwards. She's always, oh, I'm sorry. And I mean, she was weakly. I mean, she wasn't as strong or as put together as Superman. She was this girl who suddenly became super, and she's out doing the thing. She likes it. But she's like, I got to do this. She needs to choose something. That's what she said.
There are 2 episodes.
But again, going back to the secret identity, you wouldn't have a comic or these shows without a secret identity. You can't get rid of the secret identity because just Superman flying around doing stuff is kind of boring.
Well,
I think Marvel has actually shown that you can't get rid of the secret identity, but that's another discussion entirely. So I agree that is what Grant thinks she's doing, but I frankly didn't see any evidence of that. And I can only speak from my personal experience here. Well, I've been in situations with bosses like Grant, and they do not push you to do better. They just make you feel awful, and they eventually get you to quit, because nothing you do will ever be good enough for them, because they're not actually judging you on the quality of your work. They're judging you on their imagined quality of your character, but they don't actually know you. Right?
But let me throw this in there real quick. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I have Army experience, and since I was in the Army, the reason why I think I like Cat. Okay, so my perspective is going to be a little bit different than anybody who hasn't been in the military. The whole point of when you go into the military and you go into basic training, or as the Marines and Navy call it, boot camp, is their job is what the drill sergeants or drill instructors, as they call them in different versions, their job is to break down the person mentally, to rebuild them, to become confident and stronger. Okay, so my opinion is, when I see the way when I compare how she treats Kara compared to how she is at the end, especially that little thing about the difference in how she pronounces her name, the reason why, for me, I appreciated it is because it reminded me of the stuff I went through, where I hated my drill sergeant. His name, I even remember him, even though this was back in 1991, I still remember. He was Drill Sergeant Santos. I absolutely hated him. In the very beginning, he was always treating me like I was a subhuman, and he made up names for me, like, what was it? ACFU, which stood for All Chewed the Fuck Up. Okay, and he was, like, constantly berating me. But by the time we got near the end of my experience in basic training, I was pushing myself because of him to prove he was wrong. And I beat the PT record as far as running and all that stuff. And everybody was so proud of me. They wrote in my yearbook how they couldn't believe the transformation I went through from the beginning to the end. I was like,
you have a boot camp yearbook?
Yeah, they give you a yearbook at the end. And
holy crap! What is this? Some kind of sorority?
No, they do.
That is kind of funny, but
they do.
I went to Air Force boot camp. We just graduated. You stand up in front of the general, you salute, and then you move on to your assignment.
Well, you guys suck anyways. So the point is that I remember that by the very end, when we were graduating, he walked up to me, and I'll never forget, because this is, again, like 1991, and I remembered how he was so proud of me, and although I hated him, because he made me, like, he was berating me, and he was making me feel worthless, and he was making me want to prove that he was wrong, and he made me push myself physically and mentally. And by the end of basic training, I remember he said to me, just like Kat did to Supergirl by the end of the season, this is the only reason I'm comparing it, because I feel it's important. Again, this is my perspective, because it's different. I remember that he came up to me and he told me how proud he was of how much I grew, and how, he was right about me. He wasn't going to give up on me because I didn't give up on me. And when I look at the transformation from Kat's relationship with Kara from the beginning to the end, I compare it because again, this is my personal analogy of the experience I had with somebody. I didn't have a choice. I mean, I signed up, I enlisted. I didn't have a choice but to listen to this guy. I could have quit, sure, but I didn't want to. And this guy did it in a way that was like, just like Cat Grant. He was ripping me apart, telling me how worthless I was. But yet, throughout the whole thing, by the time we got to the end, I felt stronger and more confident about who I was as a person. And when he got done telling me why he did it, we had this conversation at the end. I now look back and remember his name, and I remember how much I respect him, because he did me something good. It's the way they train them to train us in the Army. But I want to think that that's what Kat was doing. She went through the hard climb of a woman trying to get up through a man's sexist world in the business world to get somewhere, and she saw something in Kara, and she talks about this at the end of the season and in season 2, about how she sees that person and she wants to make her stand up for herself. She wants to get her to deconstruct. She wants to deconstruct her to make her reconstruct herself, because she wants her to find her footing. Who are you? Find your voice. Become the Supergirl, or I should say the Super Kara, in yourself, and, stand up for yourself. And I know it seems like she's a bitch and that she's like tearing this woman down and being abusive, but again, I'm comparing it to the effect this man had on my life. And even though it might seem abusive, I think it's the way that she did it that I appreciate, because I compare it.
Okay, so I definitely cannot judge the training strategies of the military. I'm not an expert on that. I do think that there are a couple of things missing for Cat Grant to fit that type. First of all, Cat Grant's not in the Army, right? Like, if you sign up you're signing up for a certain experience, right? Like, if you sign up for the Army, there are certain things you understand that you might have to do. Like,
that's true.
I don't know, kill someone, right? Whereas if I signed up to work at a tech center and they gave me an assault rifle and were like, go fight for your country, I'd be like, I didn't sign up for this. What's going on now? So like so I think that the fact that she's not in the military is a very key difference here. I mean, and frankly, the guys we see who are in the military don't do that in the show. But beyond that, even, I really never got the sense that anything Grant did led to Kara growing as a person. Every change, every positive change that Kara makes, and Kara's arc in season 1 is very interesting, and the actress who's playing her is very good at portraying it. But
Melissa Benoist,
yeah, she's great. I have no complaints about her performance. Every change that I see Kara make is because of something that happens to her as Supergirl. I don't see anything that comes from her experience with Grant. Like, her experience with Grant really only seems to serve two purposes in the show. It either serves to fill time between the interesting Supergirl stuff, and like allow her to interact with Jimmy Olsen, who has a voice like Smooth Silk, and Win, who she likes for some reason. Hate that guy. I want him to leave. But anyway.
Oh man, he grows. I'm just gonna say right now, his character. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but by season 2, where he's at right now, he has, in my opinion, grown. He's getting better.
Sure, okay. But the other role, and then the other role that it serves is to be an obstacle for her to be Supergirl. Because she's like, oh man, like, a thing's exploding. I should probably go fix it. But like, Grant needs me to do this menial work by 5, and if I don't, she'll yell at me. And it's like, no, you be... So I can't recall a single moment in that show where anything Grant did inspired Kara to grow. I think that's what the writers wanted it to be, and that's probably what Grant thinks is happening. But really, like, outside, in the context that Grant is portrayed in, I don't think that it works. And I think the reason Grant is the way that she is actually because of the writers' sexist ideas of a female boss. Because, like, if Grant was a guy, they would have just had her be him in this case, would have been very standoffish. That's typically how they portray, like, hard-ass bosses who we're not supposed to hate. Is they portray them as being very standoffish. They're here to do a job. They're not here to socialize or talk to
wait
you, right?
until you see her new boss next season, my friend.
Sure, but like, that's not an archetype that they can imagine for a female character. They're like, no, women are going to be social and they're going to talk, but also she has to be a hard ass and like not be Kara's friend. So that's where we get what I would consider the abusive nature of Cat Grant, because she can't just be the hard-ass boss who demands Kara do a good job and, like, doesn't tolerate failure, right? Like, that's a perfectly reasonable archetype. But because she's a female character, the writers were like, well, she's a female character, so she's got to have all this socializing, and got to throw that in there, right?
You know what
like
I want to... You know what you make me want to do after the show? Mm-hmm. I want to research how many female writers they had on the show versus males for the season. I just out of curiosity to see, just because of what you said. But we've really gone on and filled a lot about Cat Grant, because there's so much we can say about that whole dynamic. But let me.
Grant is
she's complicated. Yeah, exactly. So let me quickly switch gears to addressing other characters in the show for your opinions. So you don't like Win.
I don't.
Let's talk about Win for a minute. What is it you don't like about Win? All right, let me ask you this. From the beginning. Okay, so the beginning, he was the friend-zoned geek guy, and then by Jimmy Olsen type, more of the Jimmy Olsen than the actual James Olsen that we get. But that's a different character. But even after the Toyman angle, what is your overall impression from the start to the finish about this character, and why?
Okay, well, Win. So first of all, Win, like, starts on a bad footing because he makes what is referred to in some circles as a gay punch joke, which is at the beginning. It's at the beginning in the first episode where Kara's like, I have something to tell you, and he's like, you're a lesbian, and she's like, no, I'm not a lesbian, and everyone has a good laugh. That's a joke that's called a gay punch joke, because a lot of gay people hate that kind of joke, because it's like, the joke is that we don't have gay people on television. Oh, ho, ho, let's laugh. And, that's not entirely Win's fault. Like, that was a joke that any character could have given, and it would have been terrible. But that's, like, not a great way to start off the character, right? And so then we have a couple of other problems with Win. So, first of all, Win is the friend zone, quote-unquote, archetype, right? And the friend zone is just a really sexist concept in general. And it's like this idea that being friends with a woman is, like, less valuable, and that the woman has done you a service by wanting to be your friend. And, like, unrequited love is definitely a thing that exists, right? But, like, it's still, like, calling it the way the friend zone is portrayed is that it's some kind of failure, like, on the woman's part. It's like, oh man, she friend zoned me. And it's like, another way of saying that is, oh man, she wants to be my friend. And it's like, that is just a terrible thing to say. And
in my opinion, real quick, in my opinion, I don't see it that way. I see it like her putting a boundary.
Well, to Wynn's credit, he never actually says that she friend zoned him. I don't
That's
think.
true.
In fact, the only time the show actually uses the word friend zone is when she's talking about Jimmy Olsen, and that's also bad. But that's bad for a different reason.
The friend zone isn't that it's bad on the woman. It means the man has failed.
It's not
That's
like
what it means.
Like
the man has failed. No, the man fails. He didn't get what he wanted in this case. If you're trying to go out with a woman or take her to bed, and she puts you in the friend zones, then the man has failed. The woman has rebuffed him. She's successfully, fought him off, and it's the man that failed. That's what that means.
Okay, well, this is a complicated.
Anyway.
The whole story about the friend zone is very complicated, and I don't think we have time to go into it.
No.
So I'll move away from that. There are several other things that Wynn does. He gets very jealous of her and like acts like he has some kind of
claim,
some kind of claim on what she does, and like you
kind
can't
of
control
realistic though if you think about it. I've seen work things like that happen, work relationships.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm not saying that people can't be jealous, right? Like we've all been jealous, right? It happens. It is a real thing, but the show doesn't really pitch it as a problem that he has. Like that's what jealousy is. If you're jealous of somebody else and you're letting that affect your relationship, that's your problem that you have to solve.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
It's not their job to address your jealousy. There's also a scene where Wynn does a what's called a surprise kiss. This is a problem that lots of television shows have. And Kara actually does one of these too.
To Jimmy,
Yeah. So the surprise kiss is when you go to kiss somebody without any
preparation,
without any request, any acknowledgement of consent, want to be kissed. You just mash your face onto their face and stick your tongue in their mouth. And I don't know about you, but I would be kind of put out if some dude came up to me and stuck his tongue in my mouth without asking.
It's funny that you said put out. No offense. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, sure. And I would, that would upset me. But that's a very common trope in fiction, and it's portrayed as very romantic, and it's actually very harmful because it teaches us this lesson that really you don't need to ask for consent. You can just kind of hope, and it'll turn out okay. And Kara, at least with Supergirl, Supergirl could break his neck if she wanted to, so she's not in any physical danger from him. It's way worse when it's a really big guy and a woman without superpowers.
Right.
But which is why it's actually worse when Kara surprise kisses Olsen, because if he's not interested, he might actually be afraid of her.
In all fairness, though, by the time she did it, I think she got enough signals. I'm just saying, she got enough signals to feel that you take a gamble. I'm not justifying that. I'm just saying it wasn't like she was taking a shot in the dark, without any kind of hint that he might be into her. Because he got jealous when Barry was in that episode. You know what I'm saying? She knew that he was into her.
Well, the issue isn't signals, right? We get signals all the time. The problem is signals are always very ambiguous, right? Anyone who's ever tried to
got pretty jealous, though, in the Barry episode. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wants to date her, right? Lots of anyone who's ever been tried to flirt with somebody knows that signals can be confusing.
Oh,
right?
That's absolutely true. That is true. Yep.
Right, and that's why we don't do this a lot in fiction, and so it seems weird. But in Frozen, there's that moment when Kristoff asks if he can kiss Anna, and it's really adorable and cute. And that's the sort of thing that we need more of. And the surprise kiss in general is just a bad trope, and it normalizes that whole idea.
I see what you're saying. The romanticism thing that you were talking about earlier with them doing that. I have a mixed opinion about that, but carry on.
Right. So there's that. Just in general, he feels very extraneous, as a character, and his whole reason to be there seems to be to act kind of possessive of Kara. And then he gets weirder because he is revealed to be a genius level hacker, and I'm why are you working for a news agency if you have that kind of skill? Maybe
he's not anymore.
George, for this one, this goes back to he didn't need to be in the first season. He was completely useless. He was just there. Oh, we need a way out. He's a genius guy who works for Cat Grant.
Well,
he didn't really need to be there.
In all fairness, though, he didn't have the opportunity he got until he met Supergirl. You know what I'm saying?
He didn't need to be. When she's working for the DEO or whatever, they have computer geniuses there, right? So
Right.
technically, they could have used the DEO as a means of, they can get around the hacking. They can do this. He was superfluous for this particular season. He didn't need to be there. Like you were saying, I mean, he was doing all this stuff it was filler. I mean, it was pointless. I agree with him. This guy was not really necessary for the whole season. Didn't really like him first season.
So, Oren, I know that you don't mind a little bit of a minor spoiler.
No, go ahead.
All right. Wynn does end up leaving Capco, and he's now full-time DEO in season 2. And that makes way more sense. Yeah, and this is what I'm saying.
Yes, it does.
I'm telling you right now, ever since they moved to the CW, I'm not trying to jump ships here as far as the conversation, but I'm telling you right now, the character, it's almost like you take somebody who's in a bad place, but they're not meant to be where they are. Somebody discovers them, and they recruit them and say, dude, you need to go over here. And then they suddenly become, like, fulfilled, and they're like, oh, now I feel like me, because this is where I should have been the whole time. Because you got to remember, the DEO, he wouldn't have ever known about them if it wasn't through his association with Kara. So when you get to season 2, this man is a changed person, and I think you might possibly like him by season 2, because
I hope so.
Yeah,
and like that's an interesting arc of the whole, like, you know, a guy who is like who is not fulfilled in his job and like finds a new one, and I could totally buy into that. It has a problem with Wynn just because like tech jobs are so in demand in in this day and age that if he had that kind of skill, the only reason why he couldn't find a better job is if he had just decided not to look for one. And it's not impossible that you could explain that. Like, you could do it, but you would need a lot of time focused on Wynn that they clearly weren't going to do, right? Because they have other things to do.
Quick question. How much time do you have?
I got about another 15 minutes.
Okay. I would like to ask your opinion. All right, so the whole James and Kara thing, I would like to throw aside, because the whole anything with shipping and real romance, I want to actually ask your opinion of Alex. I love that character, and I think she reminds me of Chloe on Smallville, where she's an original character that the show created, and the audiences love her. I personally think she's awesome, and she gets better and better. As far as your opinion, Oren, what do you think of Alex?
I mean, I think she's fine. I don't have as strong an opinion on Alex, because I think there are some very good moments between her and Kara.
Yep.
I think that those are interesting. I find the concept of the sister of a superhero to be a fascinating one. I enjoy that. I found the relationship with her mother to be a little over the top, not like impossible, just a little overdone.
Yeah.
In general,
I think for me, it was season 1 with a lot of episodes. They were just way overdone, or just the premises behind the episode theme was not. I mean, for me, it was just bad. It was disjointed, is what I'm trying to say. It wasn't even. For me, have you watched any of the CW shows like Arrow? You said you watched season 1 of Arrow, right?
He's seen Flash.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm not going to get into that one, but the thing is, with those shows, there's a theme that runs through them. You've seen Flash and so forth. When it was on the CBS, I don't think they knew what they were doing with that show. Hopefully now it's moved to CW. They're going to have this more thematic process by which these episodes are.
Yeah, I'll talk about that after.
Moved through, because it's disjointed for me.
See, I actually think Supergirl is better than either Flash or Arrow. At least I've watched.
I actually agree.
I'm a little concerned now that it's moved to CW. I don't know if it will maintain its quality.
But it not only maintained its quality. I'm just telling you from my opinion. It has become benefited from it, because not only do they have a bigger budget, but these first 2 episodes of season 2...
They don't have a bigger budget. They have a smaller budget.
No, they have a bigger budget. And the season 2...
Then why have they kept Cap Grant?
Because
Callista Flockhart doesn't want to move to from LA to Vancouver.
Right.
So then why did it?
I'm not
it
saying
has nothing to do with money. It has to do with she doesn't want to move to Vancouver. She's living in LA.
If they had a bigger budget, they wouldn't have had to move.
No, that's where the CW is shot.
Yeah, I think that's where all their filming and studio
but
stuff is. Like,
why did they do it there? Because it's cheaper.
Well, they have. Well, yes, but
back then when the show was like less popular,
it's still cheaper to film in Vancouver than it is in LA.
Right,
that's why those shows are shot in that city because it's cheaper there.
But that doesn't mean that they have a smaller budget. That just means that the CW films in Vancouver because it's cheaper, and that's where they have all their infrastructure, right? That's
right now, the CW is on top. But back when Arrow started, they were small potatoes, and now they've grown. But they're not going to just relocate. That's what I'm saying.
So anyway, my point is not that it sounds like the first couple episodes are good. I'm just I think that Supergirl was markedly better than Arrow or Flash. And although I did really enjoy the Flash crossover episode, that is probably I think the best episode of season 1.
I kept telling you, you loved their chemistry between Barry.
No, I totally shipped them.
And
Flash
the two characters used to be boyfriend and girlfriend back on Glee.
Yeah, so I mean they have a lot of natural chemistry. So with going back to Alex for a minute.
Sure.
I find the most interesting part of Alex's arc to be her relationship with John, who I think is another good character.
Yeah.
Martian Manhunter works really well, and the reveal of who he is also very interesting.
Yeah, tell me about your reaction to that.
Well, I liked it. I thought it was a good subversion because they were doing the whole alien red eye thing, right? And it was oh, he's probably some evil dude, right?
Well, Hank Henshaw, the name. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but what they did was fascinating. Look, I thought it was brilliant because the character name of Hank Henshaw was associated with Cyborg Superman, and he was he had the glowing red eyes. So what they did was a twisty little thing where, they made everybody think they were going to go where the name becomes Cyborg Superman, and so everybody's preparing for that. But what was awesome was they ended up twisting it into nope, he's not Cyborg Superman. He's actually Martian Manhunter. But I'm sure that the character of Hank Henshaw, the real Hank Henshaw, will become Cyborg Superman, maybe in season 3 or whatever. I really feel, based on the flashbacks, we'll still get that. But I thought it was really clever the way they did that to throw everybody off the trail so that when he did his reveal, everybody was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, no, I think that was a good reveal. I don't know the name Hank Henshaw, so that mattered nothing to me. But the reversal of what I was expecting to be a villain that they were going to have to fight being an ally was, I thought, very cool. I enjoyed that, and I liked the character of Martian Manhunter, and I specifically, I enjoy characters.
I'm assuming you knew who he was, right?
Well, I know who Martian Manhunter is.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I did not know that Hank Henshaw was going to be revealed as Martian Manhunter. I thought
that's what I meant. I just wanted to make sure you knew who the character of Martian Manhunter was in the Justice League.
Yes, I do. And I thought that they set it up very well. The whole episode where they're basically playing XCOM inside their base because a psychic alien has gotten loose.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
And the build up to, frankly, I thought that could have carried the entire episode. I don't think that even needed the side with Kara, but the whole build up to maybe Hank's evil, but then he has this other reason for doing it. That was all very good, and I very much enjoyed that. And I'm a fan of the way that Hank is basically trying to help humans, even though humans keep being jerks to him. He's I'm just trying to help, guys. I just want to, not let the evil aliens ruin your day. And they're like, we don't trust you, Martian Manhunter. We're going to handcuff you to a table and ask you questions. And he's like, just come on, guys. Just let me out and I'll help you out. It'll be fine. Stop with all this nonsense. And then they eventually let him out because they realized that he was right.
Couldn't hold him.
Yeah, and in the season finale, by the way, Oren, you're going to really like season 2. I really do think that there's Superman. I'm not spoiling anything, but Superman and Martian Manhunter have a moment in the last episode where they go to the Fortress of Solitude to solve a problem, and they actually discuss why Superman and him have a problem with each other, and they talk about the comparison between Krypton and him being the last Martian, and it's really good writing. It's an amazing dialogue that they have with each other, and I loved it. And I think you'll understand his point of view when you get to that season 2. And one of the things I noticed, though, was the actor who plays John. Now, obviously, they can't always have him in the makeup because it's expensive.
Yeah,
and it takes a lot of time. What did you think?
I think a lot of that's CGI too.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So by the end of the season, by the way, the president that they keep talking about in the finale is going to be Linda Carter. She's coming. They've already showed a promo for her and Miss Martian. But I have a question for you. What do you, my only problem with the finale of the whole first season was how quickly they kind of made nice. Like, the president forgives you and you're forgiven. You can be the head of the DEO even though you're a Martian and you lied to us and everything is fine now. Yay! What did you think of that? I mean, I thought it was a little bit sudden and a little bit like, okay. That's
so the only the only conclusion I can draw from that, since I don't know who the president is or what her opinions are at this point, but my guess is that what was going on there was that when they said the president wants this and that, they were actually just assuming what the president wanted, and I don't think the president actually knew what was happening. I think the president was probably concerned with some other problem, right?
Actually, according to the promos for next week, she does know, but go ahead.
Right. Anyway, the way that I would explain this is that the president was probably off, like, doing some kind of, like, global climate change summit or something.
Right.
And, like, other people were claiming her authority because they technically had the right to do that. And then she gets back and actually gets, like, told the whole story. And she's like, okay, so we have this guy. So we had this Hank Henshaw fellow, and he was like a serial killer. And now we've got, instead of him, this Martian dude who is a huge badass and keeps saving our asses all the time. And now we've got a bunch of evil aliens running around. Yeah, we should probably have that Martian dude on our side. I don't know why we would ever do anything else. Let's not make him our enemy. That makes perfect sense to me. If anything, the fact that it took so long is a little weird.
I know you have to leave soon, so I'm just I just want one more thought. I like the actress who plays Lucy Lane. Now, I'm not gonna. I can't remember her name. Jenna Dua, something like that. No, Tatum. Jenna Tatum. She was on the show Witches of East End, which is a show I loved. It was on the Lifetime Network, I think, and it got canceled.
That show is hilarious.
I think it's pretty funny. And she was if you watch it, you know what I'm saying. She's a major character on that show. So she comes over to Supergirl. Now, the character of Lucy Lane is actually, she's been around since the 1960s. I mean, this character's not new. She was also on Smallville, and so is General Lane, her father. So, I like the portrayal of this version of her and how she's part of this. We haven't seen her in Season 2 yet, but what are your thoughts about this character and how she fits going forward?
Okay, so on Lucy Lane, I feel a little bit neutral. Like, she hasn't done anything. She's not, like, I don't think a great character yet. She has potential.
But she listened. See, this is my thing. When Supergirl gave her reveal, Lucy she listened. And then by the end, I just feel like this character is smart. She actually wasn't stubborn like her dad. She paid attention to what's going on around her, and she gave a lot of thought into her decisions. Even though Martian Manhunter used his mind to manipulate people into making her the boss, I still feel like she was actually portrayed as a intelligent character. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that she did a fine job. I appreciated her portrayal as the director of the DEO for a while. I thought that worked quite well. I wasn't a huge fan of her relationship with Jimmy Olsen because it just seemed very clear to me that they had no chemistry, which they eventually figured out and split up. But they dragged it on a little longer than I would have liked, right? They were like, maybe our problem is that you don't value me above your career, or my problem is that I'm jealous of Supergirl. It's like, no, you guys' problem is you don't really like each other very much. That's your problem. So that was a little bit disappointing. But so far, I've enjoyed her. I think that she's fine. I love that moment when everyone's been mind controlled and she and 3 other DEO agents do a synchronized stride up to the big screen. I'm like, man, that took some time to coordinate. They really worked on that.
Yeah.
I think she's fine. I think she's got potential to grow. She's not a bad character. She hasn't done anything super memorable yet, but I do like her.
She hasn't been on the Season 2 yet, and I'm wondering if she's going to. I really... So, I think you're going to love Season 2. We're only going on the 3rd episode of Season 2 next week, but I think that, personally, when you see the shift from the CW to the CW, you're going to notice a remarkable tone shift. And that's just my opinion, because I think that they finally figured out, which is why they moved Supergirl over there in the first place, is that people have realized this is where it should have been the whole time. This was meant to be their home, and that they were trying to figure it out when CBS had it. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see. All right. So I am at about the end of my time here. I do have to head out.
I appreciate your time, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to be on your show.
Yeah.
If you can, so you guys can direct all your hate mail to me if I said something mean about a show that you like while I was here. That's kind of what I do.
Where can people find you on social media, Oren?
Well, I don't have that much of a social media presence, but I do blog. I do write for the blog Mythcreants. So if you want to Google that, you can see all of the other things that I've yelled about on the internet.
Okay.
And that is
where can they find you on that?
That is mythcreants.com. It's like, it's like Miscreants except myth.
All right.
So if you just Google that, you'll find it.
All right. Well, I thank you for joining us on our discussion about Supergirl. I thought your opinions about the show and your kind of overview of it was very fascinating. And I hope to have you back on the show in the future for some other discussion. So thank you very much, my friend.
All right.
Thanks, Oren.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Have a good one. Part 2. So our friend Oren just left. That was an interesting discussion about Supergirl Season 1. So...
Well, you definitely had some interesting ideas.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope to have him back on the show in the future. He definitely has different perspectives on things.
I guess because he's coming from a different... I mean, he's 29. I'm 47, though. I mean,
you're
different
1 year older than
perspectives.
Me. I'm 46.
Different perspectives, right? So he's looking at it from a totally different aspect. And I was looking at it where he his ideas and his thoughts, definitely interesting. Not that I agree with them, but they're definitely interesting to listen to.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so hang on one second, Will. I'm gonna. So Will, have you seen both the first 2 episodes of Supergirl season 2?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And I think we kind of hit on this with Aaron. For me,
Oren.
The writing in season 1 was not terrific. I didn't like a lot of these episodes because I thought they were just very campy. I mean, you talk about the Supergirl Flash crossover,
right?
But the 2 bad people in that, the 2 bad guys in that show, were awful. I mean, what was it, Banshee? You see that outfit she was wearing? It was awful, and it was just campy words and stuff. And they were.
I would have liked her outfit if it wasn't for the fact that it was a makeover, because in the comics
it was awful.
She looked okay if it was not.
You can do Banshees a lot better than that. There's a lot different Banshees that looking like a Banshee. She did not look like a Banshee.
She had a nice ass.
They put her in a tight costume with the makeup and the face. I was like, what the? Oh, it was just awful. But anyway, I didn't like the writing when they were fighting, and I just thought it was really cheesy. But again, the thing with that episode was the only thing that saved it was the interaction between Supergirl and the Flash. That bonded. That chemistry was fantastic. But this season is really well written. I mean, the first 2 episodes dealing with, Superman's in town. You basically they deal with the bad guy at the first thing, or they deal with this threat to what's his name, Lex Luthor's sister. She's in town.
Lena Luthor, yeah.
Right. Somebody's trying to kill her. They introduce I guess it's going to be the bad guy from throughout the season. Is this shadowy corporation? This thing was trying to kill superheroes, and at the end, they revive him and they turn him into Metallo, this evil guy, right? The second episode, you had 2 aspects in it that dealt with character development, in that Kara had to deal with her new boss. And again, we had a big discussion with Oren about Cat Grant, and how her male boss now, who's the writer, the
Snapper car,
head,
yeah.
he's the head guy for the reporters. Doesn't like her. He did not want her there. Doesn't like her. Says you don't work for me.
Hold on one second. Will, do you know who Snapper Car is?
No, I don't know who Snapper Car is.
I'm gonna just say this real quick. In the comics, since the 1960s, the character of Snapper Carr was a recurring friend of the Justice League. He snapped his fingers. He was like this youthful guy with a car who DC created to be sort of a hips. They called him a hipster.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And see,
well, it's not that.
Well, I know, not in this version, but it's like they're name dropping him. But he's actually a very just like the Wonder Twins, he's like a minor character who's always been involved in the comics. And this character, though, he's been in the background of DC. This character was like the Justice League's buddy. He was like the Robin of the Justice League. He was meant to be the point of view of the audience because he had no powers, but he was some kind of a reporter or whatever, and He did this thing where he would snap his fingers and do some hip talk, and he was very popular for some weird reason. And so
they were trying to attract a different crowd.
They were
looking maybe that breaking the fourth wall. He's talking to the audience. Oh, look, he's talking to me. This was just to try to attract people to buy the comics. What they've done with this one though is, he's an actual reporter. He's old, he's bald, he's nasty, he's grumpy. Yeah. He doesn't like people. He doesn't like Kara.
He's hilarious though. Come on.
But no, I don't think he's hilarious. I think it's going to be a great dynamic between her and him. But then you also had,
go ahead.
The Jimmy Olsen thing where I think it was the Jimmy Olsen where she's, they had a lot of things in this second episode where they're trying to sort of, and then to me, the fight scenes were fantastic, right? And I like the fight scenes, but right where they're fighting Metallo and the first time, they're on the bridge. It's dark. They've got a spotlight on her from a helicopter looking down.
Yeah.
He's knocked Supergirl down. Superman's been knocked down. He gets up. He knocks Metallo away or something. He picks Supergirl up when she's in her own. And I've seen the picture of that comic book.
I posted that on Facebook.
I saw you posted, but I recognized that. I said, "Wow,
Crisis on Infinite Earths."
That was really good. That was really good. Paying homage, and it was
an iconic.
Yes,
cover.
But he did it very well.
Yes, they did.
They did it very well. And I like that.
Yeah,
that they didn't have that. They didn't have that kind of stuff, that iconography, in the first season.
That's
they didn't have it.
Where this show belongs.
Right. So, and I like the writing. It's much more mature. It's not, she's not walking around being like you said with what's his
Oren.
face? Not Oren. The kid who got put into the friend zone. Zen or Ven or whatever his name is. Win. Yeah. It was just that moping around, and now he's the guy sitting at the computer desk at the DO making snappy comebacks and so forth. And that fits him, right? That fits the character. He's just making these.
See, now under the CW, it's interesting that you said that because I was trying to explain to Oren, but he hates Win. But in my opinion, he's not going to hate him in the second season because the CW, they know what to do with this guy as far as the writing. They're gonna make him. They're gonna make him like Cisco on Flash. Right. So yeah, he's the Cisco of the Flash. I mean, the Cisco of the Supergirl. Exactly.
So that's perfect. And they've taken away because there was no chemistry between Kara and him. No chemistry between Kara and what's his face.
I think he's gonna get together with Alex. To be honest,
there was no character. I mean, there was no interactions between these characters. I mean, she didn't ship any of those guys. I didn't feel anything, right?
Oh, well, one quick second before you continue. You know how we were talking, earlier, I wanted to make a point that I agree with, that some people have been talking about on podcasts. CW is usually pro-shipping relationships, you know what I'm saying? But, have you noticed, ever since Supergirl moved over to the CW, they've done the opposite? They're debunking the relationships. They're taking away, they're stripping it down. It's almost like they're saying, oh no, CBS, we don't like what you did. We're going to strip it back. They removed the Jimmy Olsen relationship
because they
Kara.
could see it didn't work.
Exactly.
The Jimmy Olsen Kara didn't work.
They usually encourage that, but this time they're discouraging it.
But again, they saw what happened. I tell you, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy those relationships.
And I think that they recognize that.
The relationship that worked was the one with the Flash. That's
yeah.
The one that worked. Can't have that because they're on 2 different shows.
You know what's funny is that if he wasn't her cousin, those two would be the perfect match. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, but again, she seems to hook up. I mean, she has, so she can't hook up with her cousin. That's just no.
Did you find it creepy at all when they got so close that when he goes back to Metropolis, he flies down, and the first thing he does, and he's like, "I miss you already," and he just saw her like 2 seconds before,
right?
And she's like, "I miss you."
You know why they did that? You know why they did that?
Why?
To attach it back to the first season where he was just texting her all the time, right?
Oh, I like that. That's a good call.
That to me, that's what he did. It was just we'll play an homage to the first season because that's what he was doing. But he didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he had no weird thoughts in his head, but it came across.
Yeah, it was a very weird statement to come across. It's like, okay, you just seen her, she's a cousin. You do that when you're boyfriend, girlfriend, not when you're cousins.
If I was Lois Lane, I'd be going, yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't like that. Okay. I didn't like that.
That's what I would be thinking if I was Lois Lane.
Right. It wasn't a good... You just say...
It's your cousin, I don't have to worry about it.
You could have just said, hey, made it back. That's all you had to say. Usually when you do family, they say, "Hey, call me when you get there, or call me when you reach your destination." You know, you do that. You go on Twitter, or you go on the texting. You say, "Hey, made it. I'm home." Just want to let you know. That's all they had to do.
He literally just got there.
Right.
I miss you already. And
I know that whole "I miss you" thing. No, you don't want to do that with your cousin.
Yeah, I got a real incest vibe from this.
Yes, that was not good. I picked it too. That was not good. That was not good.
It was kind of creepy. Now let's talk about Tyler Hoechlin though, in general as Superman. So Anthony and I talked about this last week, and you weren't able to attend, but. Let me ask you this: what is your opinion of him as Superman? Because we talked about this from the trailers the week before that, about how we both agreed he was kind of a Dean Cain /
Yes, I agree. He's exactly the thing.
I think he's a throwback to a comic. People keep saying that he reminds them of Christopher Reeve. I don't agree with that. I think he's a hybrid. He's both Dean Cain and Christopher Reeve kind of mixed together. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think they're all the same. I mean, Christopher Reeve, D. Cain, the guy from Superman Returns,
Brandon Routh,
they're all one and the same. They're all playing that character because that's what Superman is. He's the nice guy. He's not going to yell. He's not going to be, in your face. He's not going to be, throwing things around. He's not going to get grumpy. He's not going to be, moody. He doesn't have those things because he realizes he's standing for something, right? Truth, justice, and the American way. And that's what that is. That's what he's bringing. You can even tell when he was talking to Martian Man, John Jones, that, hey, look, I don't agree what you did. But he didn't do it belligerently. He wasn't in his face. He said, no, I cannot be here because what you did. He wasn't doing angry. He wasn't belligerent. He wasn't in your face. He wasn't screaming at him. He wasn't, get rid of that. So he just said, look, I can't work here while you've got kryptonite here, and what you did. That's what I got. He was like, there was some tension there, but it wasn't like they were going to come you didn't feel like they were going to come to blows over it.
But did you notice there was two things I noticed, okay? Do you remember the part where just before Martian Manhunter phased his hand through to remove that kryptonite heart from the Asian guy, the other Metallo?
Yeah.
There was a point, and I think they did this on purpose, but I could be wrong. He had finally had enough of getting his ass kicked. He grabs that Metallo by the neck, and he picks him up, and he's getting... in my opinion, they were trying to say, maybe he'll snap his neck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like almost like a callback to what's going on with the movies. Like, because he had that look on his face, because I'm a geek, and I've watched this episode so many times. When he's holding him by the neck, it's like he has that look on his face like he's ready to snap his neck. Because he's like, I gotta end this right now.
But he also, again, they're trying to differentiate between he's Martian Manhunter and
Oh, okay,
Superman, right?
Yeah. Well, true, but there was one other thing too. Okay, so he grabs him by the neck and he picks the guy up. And do you remember when Supergirl and him, when they didn't have the suit ready from Win, the suits, which by the way, that's another discussion because it made no sense. They both.
It wasn't really a suit; it was like the cover thing over.
Yeah. I have a problem with that whole fight scene as far as that part. It's like they were sitting there waiting for him to hit their chest. But anyways, they were both getting ready to vaporize him. Remember, they said to the one guy, to John Corbin, they said, "If you make a move, we're going to vaporize you." And they both made their eyes glow. Because I'm thinking to myself, how serious?
No, I don't think they're going to vaporize him. They're going to use their heat, their heat vision. But they already realize he's pretty strong. You're not going to vaporize him. They're going to try to use their heat vision to knock him down or knock him out or not, incapacitate him.
That's not what they said though. They were ready. They were saying like they were ready to kill. The way they were saying.
I don't know. I don't think.
Do you
so.
think it was all talk?
Right. I don't think they were ready to kill him. I definitely don't think Superman was ready to kill him.
See, that's
because he hadn't really done anything at that point.
I love the line. Go ahead.
No, I think he's hit him around a couple of times, but Superman would not kill somebody for that reason.
That's been the whole argument about why people like this guy versus Henry Cavill. So let me ask you this: so he, do you remember that line? This made me laugh a lot. After they get done fighting, he says to the other Metallo, he says, "I'm going to let you have a timeout and let you think about what you did." I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, exactly, right? Right.
Awesome.
He's like, look, okay, I've incapacitated you. You're not going to move. You just lay there for a little while,
See, everybody's calling now for a Superman spin-off show. I don't think they need one.
I don't know. They don't need a spin-off show right now.
No, they don't.
They don't need a Superman spin-off
show. Just have him show up once in a while.
Exactly. Twice, a couple of times each season, that's it. Maybe a couple more, but they don't need Superman spin-off show. No way. That'll be too many.
Okay, so I'm not sure how much you've read on the internet. I'm going to stop right here. If you don't know, I'm going to ask you one question. Do you know who the man in the pod that woke up at the end of the episode is? If you don't,
no.
I will not. Okay,
I don't know who it is. I know he's just woken up. He's just grabbed Kara's neck and he's strangling her.
The only thing I'm going to tell you is this: he's not Superboy, like some people keep saying. He's not a Kryptonian.
Okay, so he's not a Kryptonian.
Because they talked about this both on Comic-Con and they've already revealed it. He's a character from the Legion of Superheroes. He's a very...
Yeah, you get it close. I don't need to know.
Yeah, I've loved this character since the 60s. Not me personally, but I love the character that this guy is, and I think it's going to be awesome when they really get into it next week. So, but Miss Martian is also on next week's episode, and we all know from Young Justice that she is a white Martian, that John Jones kind of...
Don't like white Martians, right?
Exactly. It's going to be one of those things where he's going to have to deal with it, where she starts off like a villain, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited.
To me, like I say, if this is the standard of the bad guys they're having this year,
the whole show, because
Metallo almost beat them up. It was what was that character from last season where Supergirl had to get so angry with her super things to knock that guy down that Red Tornado, he almost beat her, right?
Well, Red Tornado.
That's what makes this interesting.
Member. He's like the Vision of the Justice League, of the DC universe. He's an android. So yeah, he was tough, right? And she had to almost blow herself up to beat him. And Metallo almost did the same thing. She did what was called the I forget the name of the it's a superpower that Superman has used where you expend so much of your sun energy to your heat drain.
Right. Yeah, it basically deteriorates them, and then you have to take a couple of months to...
It's like supernova, that's what they call it, the supernova.
Yeah. But, yeah, so... Yeah, if that's what the level of the bad guys will be this year, it's going to be pretty good.
In general.
Yes. Again, now they've got so much to work with. Because they've taken him out of that stupid cave that you had to fly out to every time you wanted to talk to somebody in the DEO. And they put him in a high-rise. They put him in a building in downtown.
Did you catch that joke where Alex made that joke, that little line? Everybody's been talking about this. where they were kind of making a little like jab at the CW move from the CBS.
Yes.
Where she says like, well, this is a better we moved.
You had this all the time. Why didn't I know about it?
Yeah. We moved, but it's better or something like that.
Right. See, the first episode, she's flying in. When did you have this? When did you move here? Oh, we've always had it. She said, I didn't know about it.
That's
so yeah,
an in-joke, yeah.
But it is, because, I mean, she had to fly out to that stupid cave every time. The whole sets were awful because they were under rocks and so forth. It's much better with them being in a building downtown so she can, they're part of the city. She's not outside the city, she's in the city. So I like that.
Before we change subjects, I want to ask you, so Superman and Supergirl were awesome in their interactions, but in my opinion, it was more about Clark Kent and Kara than it was about Superman and Supergirl. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was more about him trying to teach her as Clark how to be Kara than it was about Superman teaching Supergirl. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but again, it goes back to what Oren said. I mean, he says DC's trying to get away from their their secret identities.
Yeah.
Which is kind of stupid because all they have is the glasses. I understand that. But for me, when you're watching it, it's this dual relationship. It's this duality. One part of your personality versus another part of your personality, and how do you make them work together? That's what makes these superhero shows work. Is you have Supermorville, you had Dean and Lois and Clark. They work because you have two sides of the same person, and you got to bring them together to make a whole person.
I think that
and now that she's a journalist, now that she's not working for Cat Grant, because obviously, Calista Flockhart's not going to be in the show anymore, or maybe coming back periodically.
She will be recurring.
Right, she'll be a recurring thing, but she's not going to be regular cast member anymore. Right. So and now she actually has some challenge. She's got to actually do the work. She's got to be a reporter. And I've read some of the things that now you can actually incorporate some of her investigative journalism into an episode. What she discovers as a journalist, maybe she can figure stuff out and whatever. They can bring that into the aspect.
Absolutely. And the other thing, too, is that, like Oren was asking earlier, he's like, why does she put up with Kat? Why does she have to do that when she
likes Kat. She likes her.
Exactly. She likes her as a person, and she feels as a woman that she's teaching her things that Supergirl cannot learn from even Superman because he's not a woman. It has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with them being superheroes. It has to do with woman to woman. I
was going to mention this to Oren, but I didn't want to. No, but the thing is, he doesn't like Cat Grant, so he says, "Why can't Kara see the way I see it?" But Kara likes her. She likes Cat Grant.
Yeah.
She doesn't hate her. She's never said a bad word about her. She never complains about her. She likes her.
Yeah. See, Cat Grant to me, like I told you guys earlier, it reminds me of my drill sergeant. And the thing is that Calista Flockhart, by the way. I mean, come on, the acting is top notch. I'm not even going to talk about James. You know what? I'm only going to mention this one time. Some people have been asking on the internet, like, why do they set up the whole James Olsen thing only to have her go, at the when this show started?
Because it doesn't work.
Because the CW said, thank you for handing over Supergirl, and now we're going to take what doesn't work and we're going to it out. And that's
right.
Exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, it doesn't work. I mean,
but have you seen what they've done with Jimmy, though? They've made her, and then put him in Cat Grant's position.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to play out as much as the Snapper Car thing, but yeah.
No, I don't either. But they've given him a role. What was he doing?
Well, he's about to become the Guardian. Have you read about that?
Right, yeah, I understand. So he's now going to become a superhero, too. But he's now have a job there. He was like a journalist or a photojournalist or something, right?
He'll definitely end up with her.
But you never saw him doing anything of his job in the previous season.
No, all he did was walk around flexing his muscles and saying...
Right, so now he's going to be behind the desk. He's going to have this, position that he's basically in the authority position, maybe not bossing her around, but he's going to have something. He's going to be in the office giving directives, and you can actually see him doing something. So he's actually contributing to whatever this cat company is, and I like that. They've given him something to do. They've removed the relationship between him and Kara. That's over with. Thank God. It wasn't going to work. It didn't work.
All right. So Will, I have a question for you. So I'm going to talk about this very briefly because I think we're pushing our 2-hour mark because I don't remember exactly when we started.
No, we started at what 10 after 7.
Oh, we still have a little bit of time. So
yeah, we got a lot of time.
I feel we could talk about Supergirl all night, but
let's move on.
Let's move on just to one more subject: the Flash.
Yes.
So, are you caught up on as far as the?
Oh yeah.
Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Jesse Quick. Not to be quick, but
yep, she's quick.
So, I love personally this last episode, because I like the character of Harrison Wells, this version of him, and
yes,
some people might ask, well, how come he's not affected by Flashpoint? Because he's on the other Earth; they're in a different time stream, so he notices the changes too, just like Barry does, and so does Jesse. So, obviously,
yeah, I like that.
Okay, I have a prediction to make. I think Wally is going to get approached by Dr. Alchemy about remembering.
I do.
You know
I think so.
Yeah,
I do. I definitely think that's the way he's going to get his powers.
Well, his powers are there. It's just about remembering them. That's what Dr. Alchemy seems to offer. Is remembering.
Right, but do you think Wally is going to become a pseudo bad guy for one episode, a couple of episodes?
Yes, because
I think so too.
Because he's pissed off.
Right, he's angry.
But in fairness, Barry asked everybody in the beginning of the first episode, "Do you want to know about what happened to you in Flashpoint?"
But Wally wasn't there. Was he there?
Yeah, he was, and they said
okay.
no, and they all said no. So, in fairness, he had an opportunity to tell Wally, "You're gonna be a speedster, and you're gonna be Kid Flash," and everybody agreed. No, I don't want to know. So, when she kept talking about, and Jesse kept talking about the dreams. When they kept flashing back, no pun intended, when they kept showing Wally's reactions to her talking about the dream sequences.
Yes, exact picture.
He knows.
Yes,
he knows that in another life he can feel it. He was a speedster. So what's going to happen? Obviously, Dr. Alchemy is going to approach Wally, maybe next episode or at the very end, and say, "I can help you get your speed," or whatever. He's going to help him remember what he was. Because he knows he wants it so bad. And then that's going to put Barry and Wally at odds. It's a kind of a trope. I see this happening. And then by the end of the season, everybody's going to be happy. I just hope...
I think he's going to become a bad guy for a portion of the season.
I'm not so sure
because I think what they're doing on Flash is... They're still in Flashpoint, which I like. They're still in Flashpoint.
It's still a Flashpoint.
Right, but I mean, yeah.
Flashpoint 1.2, yeah. But
it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not the same one in the comics. Well, let's just call it Flashpoint for this particular thing.
No, I mean from the show's point of view, because he did try to fix it, and it wasn't quite perfect.
Right, but to me, this is what Flashpoint is. He's changed something.
Right.
And so he's just like, okay, I can't screw with it anymore. I got to live with it, right? So he's trying to live with his decision, which I like. He's finally being a man. He's finally saying, look, I've got to accept this responsibility. I cannot change it. I have to live with it, right? And he's moving on. But I think what's going to happen is, again, my speculation, I haven't read anything on it, it's going to come to a head where he's going to have to confront it. And when he does it, it's going to split or grind. And all of these universes, including Supergirl's, going to blend into one.
No, they're not. I'll tell you why.
Well, how is she going to be a crossover then? I think that's what the crossover event's going to be.
No, it's not. I'm actually going to... Well, it's not a spoiler because they talked about this openly and they had a trailer for it. So there's a race called the Dominators in DC. They're an alien race. They're going to invade the... Let's call it the Arrowverse, okay? And they already have a trailer for this. So I had a friend at work have a great theory on this. Okay... So the producers have said that Ollie is not going to like Supergirl because he can't deal with aliens. He's already dealt with time travel and magic, and he can't handle it anymore. So the introduction of aliens existing is going to be too much for him. So we've seen in the trailer for Legends of Tomorrow where I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a trailer for a future episode where she's hanging out with both Arrow and Barry and all of the Justice Society on a roof, getting ready to fight something. And they have already talked about this. And so what's going to happen is, and this part is a theory, but it's a strong one, is that the producers did say she's not going to merge with their universe. So, when the Dominators come to invade the universe, Barry's going to say, this is what my friend from work said, I know an alien. Maybe she can help us with these other aliens. And he's going to bring her over from her Earth. Which makes total sense to me because he's like, I don't know how to handle aliens, but I do know an alien. Let's bring her over here to help us. Which totally works with what has been shown in the trailer. So basically, the way it's going to work is, whenever Supergirl wants to mix with these guys, she comes over from her Earth, and Barry, for whatever reason, figured out how to bring her over.
No, I don't like that. The reason being...
It does make sense, though.
No, because she's in a completely different reality.
That's what I'm saying.
He did it because he had that thing on his chest, and he was trying to get faster and faster and faster, and it was a complete mistake.
But he knows how to reverse it. He knows how to do it on purpose.
No, I don't like that. I think maybe you're probably right, but I don't like it because
it's not that
I think
I'm probably right. I know for a fact I'm right because of what they've said on the show.
But I think they have to collapse because that's what Flashpoint is. They have to collapse everything. They have to bring everything back together.
No, you're thinking of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what anyway, they have to bring everything back together at some point.
The only reason they're not doing that is because the producers said it would be too confusing, and that they're actually acknowledging the intelligence of the fans to be able to separate what's going on, and just understand that there are different Earths. That part I like because they're kind of saying the fans.
Yeah, but but the thing is, we talked about this. If they can just say, I'll just hop over to the other Earth. You can't make it that easy.
It's not easy.
You can't just hop over to the other Earth, bring somebody back when you want to help them. No, they did it accidentally. And they had to have...
in the new episode, Harry Wells and his daughter, Jesse Quick, came over because they felt like
But they're in they've already... I mean, this is what I'm saying. They've already... When we had Supergirl on CBS... They said, and they were part of this...
That doesn't mean that he can't figure out how to get back to her, though.
I don't like it. I understand with Barry Quick because they're in close proximity, but you saw the one on Kara. She has nothing in common. No Batman, no anything.
Actually, Batman does exist over there. But anyway.
Well, I mean, it was completely different. There was so what I'm saying is, when you have Earths that are pretty close together, like Harrison Wells and the Flash's universe, they're pretty close. A few minor details here and there, they can easily jump back and forth. The further you get away from these Earths, you got to go. That's where I have a problem. We'll just jump over these 50 Earths over here to just jump to this other reality that's completely. I don't like it.
Okay, so quick question, Anthony and I talked about this last week, but have you seen Legends of Tomorrow at all?
I watched the first season last week.
And now it's on Netflix, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm going to watch them when I get the chance, but like I said, you probably did. So I'm kind of caught up. I didn't see the first season, so I watched that. But I watched this episode,
the new one?
Yes, and I have a few problems with it. I know that what they were trying to do, because they kind of left the last one in the cliffhanger and so forth.
They just decided, yeah.
But the thing is, you've got this one where he's sent them all into different times, and it starts off with this historian coming to see the Arrow, the Green Arrow, who's actually
hold on.
the mayor.
Before you continue, this guy who's talking to Oliver and everybody, he's actually a major character. He's actually Steel.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But he's not. But at this point, he is the historian. He's just a regular guy. Right. He comes to see the Arrow, right? He comes to see what's his regular name?
Oliver Queen.
Oliver Queen. He comes to see Oliver Queen, who's the mayor. He's the mayor. Oh, he just drops everything, finds a submarine, dives to the bottom of the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean,
a little bit of a problem with that part, yeah.
And finds the ship. You know how long it took them to find the Titanic on the bottom of the ocean?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Decades. I mean, that's not. You can't just dive down. Oh, we know exactly. No, you don't, because it was 1942. They had no radar. They didn't. I mean, they were underwater. They had no sonar. They had no.
Hold on, they did have radar, but hold on. The thing is, though, is that they did actually have radar. But hold on, no, you're right. They didn't. They had sonar, not radar. But the thing is,
well, they have both, but I'm saying they were underwater, and even with sonar, the Americans didn't have sonar. The Russians were the ones, and they didn't have sonar. Well, they had sonar. I'm going to tell the Americans where that ship's.
Yeah, I know, but okay. So Legends.
So how did he find it so quick?
I agree with you on that part of the show, but like, it does require a little bit of suspension of disbelief to enjoy the show.
Well, that was a huge leap of faith right there. That was a big leap of faith. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to skip over a piece of storytelling, but okay. So I got into that. I got past that. And then they were jumping around time, having to pick up all their things. That's fine with me. Kind of like King Arthur's Court, American Yankee and King Arthur's Court. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But then what I did like was the bad guys. They brought back Damien Dark. They brought back the bad guy from season 1 of Flash.
Eobard Thawne, yeah.
Eobard Thawne, right? But they brought him back as he was originally, not as the guy he took over, right? I like that. They're gonna, so they've got all of these bad guys. Right. I like it. That's what I liked. So now they got a Legion of Doom going against the Legends of Tomorrow.
What did you think of the GSA at the very end? The GSA, like, are you aware of the GSA?
Well, yeah, but then you got these other. At the end, you got these other superheroes showing up. You're gonna come with me. So yes, I like that episode. I like that. No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with these at all. But it was fun.
Okay, so like I told Anthony last week, so the only issue I had with this, it's not a big one, it's just a little nitpick, is that Stargirl, the woman who was with the one star in her chest, she floated down at the very end with them.
Right.
That character was she was created by Jeff Johns, the guy that runs DC and the movies and everything right now, and this guy, he created her in honor of his sister who died in a plane crash. Now, the character was a modern character who took over her father's role from the Star-Spangled Kid from the JSA and became like the young, modern connection to the present from the JSA. So, in this version, she's always been a part of the 1940s JSA, and people, I agree, I hate to say it, but it's a little bit of a nitpick, but it bothers me only because of the character herself and how she was meant to be. But other than that, actually,
I'm not familiar with that, so it doesn't. I don't know anything about that.
Unless you know about it, it won't affect you. But I am excited for actually tomorrow because that's when the new episode comes out. Because
but that's to me when they had those fight scenes on the pier, that was kind of lame.
She was on Smallville too. Do you remember her on Smallville?
No, like I said, I didn't get a quick look at her, but
yeah, they had a whole.
I haven't seen Smallville in decades, so I haven't seen it for a long time.
Decades. It's only been 20 years, but okay. Oh, I'm just saying that.
In decades, it's been 90.
Yeah, okay, you're right. They had her on. There was an episode of Smallville where they had the JSA, and she was just like it's supposed to be, the modern person who tries to bring back the JSA, and she took over the staff and the mantle of her father, and in this version, apparently, she's always been a 1940s character. I do have a prediction. I think she's going to end up being... I think the whole GSA is going to be relocated to the modern age because of the time travel stuff. But, so, I don't know if you noticed this. I posted this on this Doctor Who group that I'm involved with.
Let me ask you, look, I don't mind spoilers, right? Yeah. They had Captain Cold on there at one point in the first season of... He will be a villain on this. Legends. Yeah. Yes, but right. Isn't the guy with the flame gun his brother?
No. Rory is a friend of his, Heatwave, who, on The Flash, they teamed up because they were hot and cold kind of thing. That was the whole...
Right. But he was a bad guy, and he's a rob. He likes thieving. He likes roaring. He likes mayhem.
You really have to watch his growth on season 1 of the Legends of Tomorrow, because this character, Heatwave, is one of my favorite characters of all time on DC. Because only in the version on the show, because the actor and the growth of the two of them, him and Captain Cold, throughout Legends of Tomorrow, they start off as villains. And they get recruited by Captain Rip Hunter because he needs them, along with all the other characters, to save time and space from destruction. And throughout the entire first season, they start off like, you can't trust him, blah, 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 blah. By the end of the first season, the guy who plays Heatwave is one of the greatest characters. I have nothing but respect for these writers. This guy becomes one of these people that you root for, and by season 2, oh my god, I'm just saying, this guy, he's a complete scumbag in the beginning of this show. He's a villain.
Yes, he was. And that's probably why I didn't get into it, because you had Cold I didn't like. I don't like that guy.
But they both change throughout the show. You have to
Okay,
see
so
it.
like I say, I've got to watch the show. I haven't seen it. Like I said, I watched the first season, so I got to watch that.
I didn't like it at first. I didn't like that they recruited these two and like chose them. I didn't like the fact that Rip Hunter decided, you two are part of the team. I was thinking, really? Because they both have guns that can do heat or cold. But if you actually watch it by the end of the season, oh my god, I'm so impressed by the development of their characters and the stuff they go through and the journey they go through as characters from the writing point of view. And by the end of the season, in my opinion, Heatwave is the number one character on Legends of Tomorrow. He is the most developed, he is it. This guy is the main character, in my opinion, and everybody else is they're just sideshows. I'm just saying, like, you gotta really experience the journey to understand what I'm saying. So, but you know what? I'm not gonna spoil that for you. I'm just trying to plug it for you, so it's worth watching. You know what I'm saying?
I will watch it at some point. Yes.
Sure. So I challenge you to not agree with me by the end of the season, because this dude, the guy that plays Mick Rory, aka Heatwave, he and Captain Cold's actor both worked together in Prison Break.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they're great actors, and I was like totally judging him as being useless at the beginning of the show, but by the end of the show, season 1, no, this guy is the main character. Let me
go back to the episode.
Go ahead.
Go back to the episode though. What I didn't like. I mean, okay, you went back to prehistoric times. You saw T-Rex. You got her. We were in France, and they had those guys trying to kill Louis XIV before his wedding night. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah,
to tell the truth. I mean, they were running around with laser guns and bullets. These lights. I mean, that does you change time. People would notice that. Right?
See, you have to really, in some ways, you have to watch how the season 1 ends to understand. There are such things as time pirates, and they just don't care.
But now they're doing this, and they're back. I mean, they were flying around. You have the flame guy flying around. French are going to notice stuff like that. Oh, stupid.
But if you think about it from a historical point of view, if the person writes about it, it actually gets published, and people remember it from history. Who's going to actually take it seriously? I mean, you got to think about it. How many people are actually going to write this stuff down? Not everybody's educated and can actually back then and can write about it and say, and it gets recorded in history.
But it doesn't have to be that. It could be rumor. You can go home from the party, say, you know what I saw, and then they spread it, and it gets spread around.
And this stuff does get discussed on the show.
So,
anyways,
you're doing that, and then you've basically altered time because now you got this rumor flying around. Anyway, okay, that's another nitpick on my part.
What?
Because I did like all of the, yeah. So I mean, like I say, I probably have to see the first season, figure out how they deal with this time stuff.
Yeah, check it out, like whenever you have time, because I'm just telling you right now. The show, like any show, it starts off a little weak, but it gets better and better and better. As you know what, I will say this, and I talked about this with Magnum last week. The writers admit that when they made this show, they were literally making it up as they went along. And once they found their footing, they were. But you know what? Sometimes it's funny because I do that too. Sometimes it's the best way to do it because by the time you get to a certain point, you can tell if you look back on the show or any writing when people do this stuff. You can kind of see where it was being made up, but once they realize what they've got, they own it and they make it better and they kind of find their place, and that's what's going on in season 2. So Because Magnum didn't like it season 1 that much, but by the time we got to season 2, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm on board. They figured it out. We both agreed on that last week. They figured it out, and I'm telling you right now, if you give season 1 a chance, and you reach the end of the season, especially the finale was amazing. If you are patient with it, I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. You're going to figure out how it works in this whole Arrowverse, and you're going to see how this season, once you start seeing that, actually you already have seen the first episode, you're going to realize where they've started and where they ended, and the potential for the future. So this entire...
Do you think the British guy's gone for good?
No, not at all.
He could have blown up with the... Where did he go, though? I mean, they had that nuclear bomb that detonated outside the ship. They had the, heat rave, or whatever his name is, in the chair.
There's a story reason why they're doing this. They want the team. They want the team to figure stuff out without him, and then they're going to bring him back.
Okay.
He played Rory on Doctor Who. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Oh, I gotta talk about Flash.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Did you see Malfoy?
Yes.
I saw him as the new CSI guy on the Flash. I'm like, perfect.
He's a dick.
You got this. Well, no, but he's not a dick in this show. He's right. Because Barry's like, what the hell you been? Why aren't you at your desk? Why aren't you doing your job? I would be the same way.
Wait a minute. What did you call him? Mal what?
I didn't call him anything. You call him the dick.
No. Before that, what has this actor been in before? Because I'm not familiar with him.
He was the Malfoy. He was the whatever her name is. The Wizard show. I mean, with those Wizard movies. He was the bad guy. He was the kid from the...
I have no clue who you're talking about.
Oh my God! You never seen Harry Potter?
Nope. I hate Harry Potter.
Oh, if you've watched the movies, Harry Potter has a nemesis at the school. That's this guy.
Oh, okay. See, I absolutely
he was the bad guy in the Harry Potter, but he wasn't really. He was just Harry Potter's nemesis. At the end of the movies, he couldn't do what the bad guy wanted, and so he was actually spared. He lived. But that's Malfoy. That's Malfoy from the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, all right. See, I took my daughter to one of the Harry Potter movies, and I absolutely hated everything about Harry Potter, so I just chose not to acknowledge
Okay, well, that's fine. That's what he is. That's who he is. And I was like, that's perfect. But he's not mouthy. He's got the thing is, right, I'm thinking, I don't know whether he's going to become a bad guy in this show or not. He could be primed for it, but I hope not. Because I like the fact that he's doing the job. He's doing the job.
I really hope they don't reset this timeline again, because they've already So when everybody figured out that Barry reset the timeline, and then they had Jay Garrett come in and tell him to stop doing that, right, and all that stuff, and then they had him and Iris start dating and all that stuff, and then all this stuff starting to happen. What's going to piss me off is if he goes back and somehow fixes it again. The only way it won't piss me off is if it doesn't change the good stuff that has happened so far since they all figured that out. Because it's
like I say, I don't think it's going to be Barry that's going to do it. I think it's going to be some act or thing within this flashpoint that's going to do that. I don't think it's going to be Barry going back in time again. I don't want him going back in time to that episode, that period. We're saving his mom. I don't want him to go back there ever again.
I can't handle... I mean, him and Iris together, fine, whatever. But don't keep resetting it. It's so annoying. It's like, you're getting... Okay, this is getting old very quickly. I want to call it Barry Point, whatever. You just stop it. Just let him fucking fix it. Okay, he fucked up. There's a lot of shit that needs to be fixed. Stop going back and undoing what you've already... I agree.
He should not be going back and fixing stuff anymore. He doesn't need to.
It does make sense why the people from the other Earths see that there's been changes, because they shouldn't be affected.
Right.
They're from another
That's
Earth.
What I liked when... That's what I liked with... I liked it that they got the I forget the actual actor's name, but Malfoy is now Barry's kind of nemesis in the CS.
Yeah, I don't like him. I don't like his character.
He's not supposed to, but I like him.
I hope he dies.
No,
horribly.
I like him. Why? Because he's doing the job. To me, and we went on with this with Oren, right? If you got a job, do the job. He's never there. He's always at the other place, zooming around everywhere. That would piss me off. If I worked there,
everywhere, no pun intended.
I mean, if I'm working there and I never see my coworker who's never there, and I'm doing all the load, I'll be pissed off too. I like it.
In order to make this episode be within the 2-hour arc, I'm going to cut it off in a second. But let me ask you real quick: are you familiar with Ragman, and did you see Arrow?
Yes, I don't know familiar with Ragman, but I saw what that Ragman does, and they've kind of say it's a 2,000-year-old piece of furniture or whatever, or clothing, and it's so I understand that.
He has been in the comics. I wasn't familiar with him until I googled it, but he's a fascinating character. So apparently, this character, the way it works is every time he kills a bad guy, their soul gets absorbed into one piece of his rags. So they then work for him. Like every time he has to take a hit, has to use his super strength, or he has to do something, he uses one of the many thousand. He can have hundreds of souls trapped in his rags, and every time they do something for him, they get like a checklist. And once they reach a certain amount of times that they helped him, he releases their soul, and they get absolved from their crimes or sins, and they go to heaven. So I thought that was interesting.
So he's like a kind of purgatory.
Yes, exactly. He gives them a chance to redeem their souls through service to him.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I never knew.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about.
Yeah, that. We always do this when Arrow's on, so I'm gonna have to wait until Arrow goes on the.
Yeah, I didn't like season 3 and 4 of Arrow too much to where
I agree. I agree. It was good. See, the first 2 seasons of Arrow were the best, definitely.
But every show deserves a chance to give itself another shot, and this season so far, it's working for me, and I'm gonna keep giving it a shot because By the way, Arrow Flashpoint change, Felicity being with this new guy, subtle but definitely a Barry result. Do you agree?
Maybe.
Well, because there's no.
But again, the old Arrow. They did break up though.
But don't you think that, like, when he asked Felicity what else has changed in the Arrow
I'm
episode,
thinking it could be. Yeah, I think it could be. And when it gets changed back, then Arrow and Felicity. Yes.
I think this is a
because that is a relationship that works.
Yeah,
right?
But he's meant to be with Black Canary.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, in DC in general, that's the way it's supposed to be. So we'll see how much they.
Well, they're going to have to bring her back from the dead because she's still dead.
There's so many ways they could do that, though. Think about it. Flashpoint, they could do it through...
Yeah, okay, so maybe they bring her back that way. I don't know, maybe. It's another idea.
We can suddenly find out she's
still alive. That the actress is still on the show?
I think it's possible that we're going to find out that the way they fix it so that she's still alive is simply Flashpoint. Why do you have to go through a whole Lazarus piss?
I don't want to that pit.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up, Will, only because if I don't, we're going to go way over the
Yeah, we are.
I don't want to have to cut this down too much because we've had a lot of good things to talk about. So, where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter at Intrinsicus. That's Intrinsic with a US on the end.
All right, you can find me at Choosh99A on Twitter. So it's just the two of us. We had Oren earlier, so it was an interesting episode. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.